Okay, this is our second Unplugged technology event. We have a very special panel. Normally we have a hodgepodge of people. Today we have very uniformed dressed people representing one company. They've spoken to classes already. They had a nice lunch meeting with a couple of you. So with that, I'm going to turn it over to our team from Kudelski.
Hi, thank you all so much for having us. We're excited to be here and see all of you. It's fun for us to be out here too and get to hear about what you're learning and what you're doing. So thanks for having us today. I will start by introducing myself. I am Elizabeth Maki. I am a senior HR coordinator at NAGRA Kudelski. I get to support all of our business units, which is extra fun. And I also manage our apprenticeship program.
Hi, my name is Corinne Bradley. I am the recruiter for Kudelski Security, and I just handle the US region.
And my name is Josiah Young. I'm a security analyst tier 1 at Kudelski Security. I'm kind of the ticket monkey.
And my name is Brady Willis. I'm his boss. I run operations at the US Cyber Fusion Center at Kudelski.
All right. So raise of hands. Has anyone heard of either NAGRA Kudelski or Kudelski Security? Oh, okay. A couple
Before
of you.
today? All right.
Great. Excellent. We are headquartered in Chazot, Switzerland. And we have our US headquarters here in Phoenix on 40th Street and Camelback. So I'm going to start by giving you a really brief overview of our company so you know where we're coming from. And then we want to hear from you. And I've got some questions for our panelists here, so it should be a good time. All right. So the Kudelski Group has 4 different business units. We have NAGRA Kudelski, so kind of think like dish TV and devices that are used to like hard top boxes for watching TV, but also anti-piracy, watermarking, things like that, where we're working actively to keep people from stealing other people's content. We also have Kudelski Security, which is the group that's here today, and that is the one of our companies that works on providing security for our clients all over the world. And then Kudelski Internet of Things. So is anyone familiar with the term Internet of Things? Most of you? Okay, perfect. So you know all the fun, great devices that are really cool and do a bunch of cool stuff. That's IoT. And in a few words. And then Ski Data is our public access company. Think parking garages. It started in ski slopes. So we wanted people to be able to easily access the ski slope. So it's the bar that you scan a badge, the bar goes up, and now they're innovating through a bunch of different things. So we are all over the world, and Kudelski Security started in 2012. We have a couple different offices throughout the world. So I can't remember exactly what the next slide is, but today we're going to talk about what our CFC is, Cyber Fusion Center. Just a little bit about kind of what we do, why we think Kudelski Security is great, and then some other fun things.
Yeah, so we'll blow through some of this. Basically, this is kind of telling the story as to why we provide managed detection and response to our customers. Really, what my team does at the CFC is to manage the customer's devices, or manage their environments to receive security telemetry. This is endpoints, this is network telemetry. We've got it all normalized in a big data lake. We've got detections that we have a team that writes looking for malicious indicators in that data. And then analysts like Josiah receive kind of these alerts to those indicators. They dig deep into that data. They enrich it with the knowledge and the access to various other tools and platforms that they have, and make the determination whether it's benign, expected, or whether it's something that's malicious that we need to escalate to their purview. This slide is basically why do we bring value as analysts to our organizations that we support? Yeah, we can keep going. Some of the things, yeah, well, I mean, this starts to go into the, like, what is a day in the life of an analyst? And we can talk some more about it in a few minutes. But we try and create a situation where analysts have access to the information that they need, access to the right kind of telemetry that's going to provide that level of insight into our customers' environments. We're going to do it in a way that they're not completely overwhelmed by the amount of data that they're getting, that we have the detections that are appropriate, and that members of the team are constantly tuning those detections to make sure that what is getting through and that analysts are seeing isn't what we call alert fatigue, where they get so much that they can no longer separate signal from noise. Ultimately, that means that they become ineffective and we start missing important events. That's basically what we do at the Cyber Fusion Center. And we can keep going. We've got 4 of them around the world. We've got a lot of recognition. Why don't we roll on?
Yeah. So I just wanted to give you a brief overview of kind of what we do and why it's important. But we're here for you today. So let's talk about, I have a couple questions here, but then I'm going to have time for anyone who has questions out here to ask them. So let's start with you, Brady. How did you decide your career? And did you decide on your career?
So this is an interesting, and some of you had the benefit of hearing my story earlier. So I graduated high school. I joined the Marine Corps. I went to war a couple of times, and I was also, simultaneously trying to pursue my degree, which originally it was history, then it was political science, and at no point when I was in college was it ever technology. After getting off of active duty, I needed a job, and I was applying for Edward Jones and GoDaddy, and GoDaddy called first. That's really what it came down to. I had a passion and interest in it, but at that point, I wanted a job and I needed a job, and that was the one that came. So I started doing tech support at GoDaddy. I networked my way into a job at a network operations center for a .com, and I was able to leverage my military experience, connections, and my security clearance from that .com experience into a job with Northrop Grumman, where I started, down the path of cybersecurity.
Thank you so much. I appreciate that. Josiah, did you decide on your career?
I would say I decided on my career from a young age, probably 7th, 8th grade. I just love technology, messing around with it, figuring out how it works. Originally, I was looking for more IT kind of focused. And then when I was looking at cybersecurity or just programs at GCU in general, they had the cybersecurity program, looked kind of interesting. I did some Googling on what cybersecurity is, and it really just sounded fun to me. So I did the program here. While doing the program here, I held a couple IT kind of roles, and then now I'm a security analyst. So this is my first kind of security gig out of college.
Excellent. Thank you. Corinne, you work on hiring our people. Tell us a little bit about you.
So I went to Penn State University and I got my degree in criminal justice because that's where my interest lied. But when I left college, I actually did sales across various different industries. One thing that I knew was that I loved connecting with people. I kind of got tired of selling products, so I wanted to get into a more service-driven or based type of job, and I ended up taking a role with a recruiting firm called Kforce. They do primarily technology and also finance and accounting. So I was able to use my sales to bring in new clients where I would find their hiring needs or employees that they were looking for across those different industries, which segued me into technology. So I worked for a software startup out of San Francisco. And then cyber actually came into my life because my spouse is actually back in school and finishing up his senior year with a degree in cybersecurity. So when we moved to the Phoenix area, I'm originally from Philadelphia, about 2 years ago, and Kudelski was hiring. I thought it was a great way to get into the space, learn more about it. Definitely very innovative, and just, really going to be growing so much in the future. So I thought it was a good place to learn more about.
Thank you so much. And we're so glad that I get to work with her every day. So it's super special for me.
I hear we have an employee referral program.
We do indeed. So lots of different fun aspects of working for a company. What Brady is mentioning is one of the important things about where you're all at is networking. Super important to send out a message to someone, send a message to Josiah on LinkedIn and say, hey, let's get coffee, let's talk, or tea, or whatever your heart's desire is. And through that, Josiah could say, oh, I think Jordan would be a great person for this role. And that's what our employee referral program is.
Speaking of networking, Josiah, do you want to kind of describe, for those who haven't heard, how you met us?
Yeah, sure. So originally, I think I met you guys at CactusCon. That's a cybersecurity convention that goes on, I think, around February, March kind of area. Totally free to attend. Totally recommend it. But I met them as well as many other companies through there. Maybe 7-8 months later, I saw they had a security analyst 1 role open. Went ahead and applied. Turns out the recruiter I had initially talked to and I had emailed didn't work there anymore. So it got sent to, I think, every recruiter's email was my idea of how it worked. And then I got 2 or 3 different recruiters kind of reaching out to me from Kudelski, and then it was a process from there. But ultimately, the moral of the story is the networking at the event was kind of what gave me that upper edge and referral above maybe some other people applying.
Some other themes that I'm hearing be persistent, but also your journey might not take you from A to B. You might have a Z thrown in there. You might end up at J. There's so many different paths that your career could go on. If you are the lucky person that knows, I love this is what I want to do with my life, that's great. Pursue that. And if you don't, that's okay too. Honestly, something that we keep talking about is get your foot in the door somewhere to just do things. Be in a corporate environment, be in a nonprofit environment, whatever it may be. So that's one of my soapboxes for the day. What does a day in the life of a cybersecurity professional look like?
Yeah, I'll go ahead and take that one. So again, I'm a security analyst. Earlier, I joked that I'm the ticket monkey. My entire job is to look at tickets that come in, different security alerts and events coming in, and analyze them, see what's going on, what, how, when, where, all those kind of words that get thrown out there. Investigate the alerts, figure out what's going on. Like Brady said, is it benign, false positive? Is it truly malicious? And then just go from there. And I do that over and over and over again. But I do love it. It's awesome.
So as the manager of the operations team, we've got 20 analysts like Josiah at varying levels in their career. What it looks like for me is that I'll come in, we'll see what's on the boards, which is those events that the analysts are looking at. We've also got ongoing engineering projects that we're tackling. We're onboarding new customers. So there's a lot of integration efforts that we're troubleshooting or just working through to make sure that we've got access to the telemetry and the applications we need, to do the job. At any given moment, there's multiple fires to fight. I've got 2 today, that I'm missing. I get to miss out on while I'm here, but I'll probably have to deal with them when we get done, including a customer, compromise at a customer, and then some ongoing engineering challenges. So it's in operations, it's a little bit different. It's a little bit more real time. I like to call it current ops. We get to do some project level effort, but our planning is often interrupted based on the needs of the day. And so while I might have some senior engineers working towards a certain end state or an outcome that they've been like kind of sent on their way to do, if at any point the team becomes overwhelmed with the number of alerts or the incident that they're handling at any given time, we pull them back in to kind of provide them that level of support that we want to try and make sure we're applying to the hundreds of customers that we have, basically.
Thank you. Is the job what you expected it to be?
Yeah, pretty much. I guess the biggest thing that isn't what I expected is how much I would continually learn. I thought it'd be kind of you get trained for a month, you get trained for 2 months, and you just kind of know everything and you do the same thing every day. But it's not like that at all. Every day I'm learning something new, whether it's a new technology, a new way to find data, just a new kind of attack that's coming around. It's a job of continuous learning, and that's why I think I enjoy it so much.
So mine is obviously a little further along, and so it's certainly taken its twists and turns. As you heard, it's not even where I thought I might end up. And through the course of that, I probably worked at 3 or 4 different security operations center, including this one, anywhere from the first one in 2008 to the one that I run now. And things nowadays are completely different than they were in 2008. The level of access, the level of data that we have access to, the actions that we're actually able to take, the advancements in technology and the level of investment that our customers are making in that technology has completely changed. And so in addition to security operations, I've held roles leading engineers, leading, systems integrators, doing management consulting, with executive teams and focused more on the higher level strategies and roadmaps. So I think I would say, no, it's not what I expected it to be. But certainly with that focus on lifelong learning, coming back into Kudelski and seeing what a security operations center has become since the last time I was in one and led one has been eye-opening as well.
Thank you for sharing. So some things I'm hearing from there is that learning all the time, being open to learning new things is really important, as well as being open to new challenges, new procedures, new things, just being open. So along those lines, what are some skills that you learned in the classroom that are very helpful for you today? And on the flip side, what are things that you learned on the job that you don't think you learned in the classroom?
For those of you who don't know, about 4 or 5 months ago, I graduated here with this bachelor's in cybersecurity. So fresh out of college. What I learned in the classroom was a lot of concepts, a lot of terms, still very important. Don't get me wrong. But you're learning the higher up, what things do and why they do them. But you're not necessarily learning how to do the stuff with the technology. So coming into this job and other roles I've had, you're learning, you take a network, for example, but what really is a network? How do you break that down into all the different pieces and how do they all function together? So you're learning the actual specifics of, taking a router and figuring out how do the packets move around and how do you route them to different places, for example. So you're learning a lot more of the actual specific technologies than the actual concepts.
Corinne, when you are looking at resumes, you see hundreds and hundreds of resumes on a daily basis. What skills do you see on those that stand out?
Good question. Obviously what you have to kind of look at the big picture, because depending on who's looking at the resume, they might think that one thing is more important than another. So you may get a hiring manager that is looking for certain certifications, certain degrees, certain internships. And I think the biggest thing in some of those criteria, whether you're listing, oh, I've worked with Splunk, or hey, I've done a capstone, or I've had an IT internship or a cyber internship. It's really the content that you're putting within the bullet points is, if someone is reading this, are they able to see the who, what, when, where, how. And the how part is most important as well. You don't want to just put on their Splunk. Okay, like, well, what have you done with Splunk, or what type of challenges have you overcome with that? So just being able to put a little summary there. I also like to look for a lot of extracurricular activities as well, just showing that you've been involved outside of just getting a certification or getting some education, that you've been in clubs, that you've done hackathons, that you've been a part of Capture the Flags, that maybe you've had a chance to invent something or try to hack something, or that you've done extra training or certifications on tools where you've actually gotten hands-on experience within labs and things of that nature.
Thank you. And then Brady, from your experience as a hiring manager, also looking through resumes, what stands out to you?
Yeah, so it's an interesting dynamic. And since I've been at Kudelski, I think, Corinne, you've kind of started to learn what I look for in candidates. And that's a relationship that we build as well. I communicate what I'm looking for. I'm always assessing, the strengths and weaknesses of my team, the skill sets that we have present. And I'm, if, let's say, for example, roles that I have open right now, I've let her know I'm looking to increase expertise in specific areas, specific capabilities, specific technologies, because in other aspects of the business, I've got plenty of people that are really good at certain things, but we've got little gaps. And so that's kind of where I would expect to see an extra emphasis placed. It's not to say that I'll rule out anybody who doesn't have that, but somebody who has demonstrated experience that we can scan for in that resume and see, okay, they do have Splunk experience, but it's more than simply I've touched it. It is, these are the things that I've accomplished. This is what I can make it do for me. And this is how I can bring value to your organization. That's something that's going to rise to the top. And I'll in this exact moment, I'll want to talk to that person. Because that's a weakness I feel we have. And that's just one example, I think.
Thank you. So I'm hearing things change all the time, and we're looking for different skills all the time. And each of you have your own unique stories and backgrounds and experiences. So we're looking at whole people. You're bringing your whole self to the interview, which is something to keep in mind. Where do professional certifications fit into a cybersecurity career?
All right, so this is where the cynic in me comes out. Cybersecurity certifications are a way to demonstrate personal commitment, passion, professional growth, and accreditation. And there is value that I know exists in certification bodies. As a hiring manager, other than checking the box, I don't particularly care. All right, I maintain a professional certification as a security manager, which helps me when I am trying to get a job somewhere. It helped me get my job now. It's helped me get other jobs because it is a check the box, just as my 4-year degree is in some situations. So I don't want to encourage you not to pursue them. That's not what I'm saying. I'm just saying that there is certain utility that you get from them, and to come at it, from the real world. Other people are going to disagree with me, I think. Certainly the certification bodies. But it is a good way to, especially early in your career, to help you stand out from your peers who are all coming into the industry at the same time. But I look at it as a demonstrator of commitment and passion, which is something that I try and screen for.
Awesome. Thank you. Josiah, I know you are pursuing your master's right now. How do you see that impacting your work? How does it influence your day-to-day?
Well, it definitely influences the workload of my day-to-day, having to do the assignments on top of work. It's very doable though, and I'm learning a lot by doing them. One of the current things that it kind of lined up at the perfect moment. I'm learning it a little bit at work, a little bit during my master's, and I'm also studying for my CYSA at the same time. And what came up is processes, Windows processes, kind of living off the land attacks, and knowing what, obviously all these are going to be in a Windows environment, like winlogon.exe. But when is this normal and when is this malicious? And there's 20, 30 different ones. And I've just kind of been making a cheat sheet of them and going through and saying, this is the name of them, this is what they do, this is what's normal, and this is what's abnormal. And just taking all three of those aspects and kind of shoving them into one lesson that I'm continuously learning.
Excellent. Thank you. Okay, we're about halfway through our time, so I would love to open it up to the floor. I've got more questions if no one has any, but I want to hear from you. We want to hear from you. What are questions that you have for us?
So this is for Josiah. You were mentioning skills. I'm curious, having recently graduated, what do you wish you took more time like for yourself to just develop while you were also in school?
My biggest weakness coming out of GCU, I'd say, was networking, and like physical computer networking, not social networking. So immediately after GCU, or maybe a couple months before I graduated, I got a job at a NOC, a Network Operations Center, and I kind of solidified that knowledge, and that helped a lot. It's very hard to protect something without knowing how it works. I know I've talked to a couple of you today, and I preach networking. It's super important no matter what role. If it's security you want to get into, software engineering, just general IT, anything you want in technology, learn networking.
Thank you so much for that question. Others?
All right, so a bit of context. I know Josiah knows who I am.
Please use the mic.
I am sorry. Okay, hi. Sorry about that, folks. So I know Josiah knows who I am. I think, yeah. Okay. But for context, my name is Megan Howell. I am a founder of our threat intelligence support unit here, and I work in offensive security. So context, how does offensive security play kind of into your guys's roles and jobs at Kudelski?
Yeah, I can talk about from an analyst perspective, and I think Brady can talk a little bit more about our red team. From an analyst perspective, we have different customers, and while we do have our own red team, our customers generally, some of them at least, have their own red team or a third-party red team that comes in and does pen testing. So part of our job, it's to keep us in check, really. They want to make sure we're alerting on certain things that their red team is doing. So that's how it impacts my personal job.
So I can speak to an example where the red team at Kudelski was working on an engagement for their customer, which just so happened to be the same customer that we were serving from the Blues team side. They were very successful in their red team engagement, and we were not so successful in that moment. And so it was a learning opportunity. Now, in the industry, you'll hear the term purple teaming something. That's not exactly the case in this situation because we didn't know it was happening. We didn't have the opportunity to plan an engagement and watch as their actions were being taken in the environment to see how the customer's defenses were responding, what kind of telemetry were we receiving, were we being alerted in any meaningful way to that activity. If that had been planned together in a cooperative manner, that would have been a true purple team exercise. In this sense, they did a wonderful job doing it. They're very, very skilled. And we took those lessons from that to improve both with feedback to the customer because they also received it, but from a monitoring, triage, and response perspective, we were able to kind of level up our own game as well. So certainly that adversarial mindset can inform everyone's decision-making process.
Thank you.
I have a question. So how important is writing as it relates to your internal and external stakeholders?
So we are an English language, even though the company is based out of Switzerland, we conduct business in English. And so you see certain challenges in communicating highly technical information to customers around the world. And that's why we need to kind of unify our language of communication. Our analysts, when they come in, we don't screen for writing capabilities. However, it is a very important aspect of the daily job. When, in addition to receiving alerts, triaging those, performing the enrichment during the investigation, when it all comes down to a situation in which you have to communicate with our customer, tier one analysts like Josiah are the face and voice of our company. And they're getting on the phone and they're sending up that correspondence, which is going to outline all the details of the attack that we're seeing and all of the exercises that he's performed in investigating it to get to that level of determination. And then we'll also communicate recommendations for that until we get to the next steps of whatever incident response might occur next. So writing is very important. It's more than simply a sentence of who, what, when, where, why. This is a draft document which is going to be utilized throughout the entirety of that security event, and will inform future decision-making, strategic level decision-making on the part of those customer executives as well. And it's something that we want to reflect very positively on the capabilities of our analysts.
And I would just like to piggyback off of that. Although we do not screen for writing, I think a great representation of that is going to be your resume. And so, you don't want the bullet points to be too short. You definitely don't need to write a novel, but can you explain your experience in a very concise and efficient way? And are there spelling and grammar errors? Because some of our clients, they don't want to see that, especially in communication. So, whether it's having a friend look it over, paying to have somebody review your resume, just making sure that, the formatting and the spelling and the grammar and just the message you're trying to deliver gets through in a very polished and professional way.
Actually, all the microphones, I got a quick question to follow up on that. So we keep hearing from hiring people that the skills they need are the communication, teamwork, collaboration. How do you put that onto a resume? How does that show up on a resume that you could recognize it?
I think when it comes to teamwork, whether it's in an internship, whether it's on a group project, whether it's, experience with the job that you've had, and it doesn't matter where you've worked, I think being able to talk about your interactions that you have with the team, or maybe give an example of what you've done. Again, it doesn't have to be the whole context of the story, but just, showing that you've worked together with other people and who those people were. So, wanting to see that if you're a T1 analyst, that you've worked with T2 analysts, that you've worked with the incident responders, that you're interacting with the management team, that you're interacting with clients. And instead of just saying, a client, well, is it a Fortune 500 client? Is it a client that's in the healthcare industry? Or maybe an automotive. So some of those little specifics could definitely go a long way just to emphasize the story.
To add on to that briefly, some of you may not have experience yet with a Fortune 500 client or corporate experience. So think outside the box. Think of a project that you've worked on in school with other people. How many stakeholders were involved? And can you articulate that? Is anyone familiar with the STAR or the CAR method? Okay, so it's an interview tactic where you come in and you have an example, you know what the result of your action was, and you can tell that story concisely. So if you're not familiar with them, spend some time, practice, come up with some examples. So it could be, I volunteered at Sally's Soup Kitchen down the road, and I worked with Joe, Bob, and Sue to do XYZ. The result of this was that more people got food in a more efficient way, as an example.
Hi. So my question is, I kind of got from Brady's answer a minute ago about the offense team that you don't necessarily localize your clients in terms of, because you mentioned that you might work with foreign companies. So I guess my question is each branch responsible for the local area clients? And if so, what's the mobility like between different branches of Kudelski? Like, can somebody move into work in Switzerland or in your other branches? And also, what's the difference in scale or like size between your U.S. operation and your main branch in Switzerland?
Sure, I'll take the first half, and then you could probably talk about Liz, maybe some of the other mobility questions. So we are really collaborative. Where there are 4 CFCs, so it's Cyber Fusion Centers, one here, one in Madrid, one in Chazot, and one in Zurich. And so that's serving within Switzerland, there are European clientele, our global clientele, and then our US clientele. We generally unify around TTPs, how we do business. That's part of us providing a consistent experience to our customers, because depending on the customer, they might be engaged with one of our US analysts on one day. They might be engaged by one of our European analysts on another day. Or sometimes they might only ever talk to one of the CFCs, and that really just depends on the relationship that we have with that customer. But as far as mobilities with the team, yeah, I mean, the opportunity both within Kudelski Security, based in Phoenix, and then also the broader network of NAGRA Kudelski companies, those opportunities exist. One of the fun things I like to say is, I think this year, out of 10 move ad changes in my team, roughly 60% of them were internal. And so that's our analysts getting promoted internally. That's to tier 2, that's to management, that's to security engineering, that's to incident response, that's to another team outside that's based out of Switzerland but working in the US. And so a lot of opportunities to shift, even if you're just based starting out as a SOC analyst.
And as far as the size, so Kudelski Security as a whole, we have about 400 employees between here in the US and the other branches in different areas. There's about 150 of us here in the US. And the nice part is, I would say about 50% are actually security professionals. So actually technical, they're doing delivery of the work, not general and administrative like myself.
And then regarding mobility, we have some great benefits. So all companies have different benefits for whatever, but one of ours has to do with traveling to different offices. And what my boss told me is, if you have a great idea and you want to work with someone in India, let's make it happen. So there's a lot of positive energy towards being able to move and experience different cultures, even if it's for 2 weeks or a couple months. We frequently have people come visit the Phoenix office for a month plus, from different offices across the world.
Tell them about your dining room. I think that's a good story.
Yeah. So to touch on the diversity of our offices, we have people who moved here from Switzerland and other parts of the world, all based here in Phoenix. And our CEO, one of the benefits for us is our company restaurant. We call it Cafe 450. We have an executive and a head chef who have both achieved Michelin stars at different points in their career, and they make excellent food at a reduced cost to us, so that I could have a 4-course meal every day of the week if I wanted to for a very reasonable price point, and I would have things like bone marrow or oxtail or quail eggs or whatever their hearts are feeling for that day.
Thank you. Just a short follow-up question. I'm assuming since you service other clients outside the US that your CFC is the 24/7? Okay.
Sorry, I forgot. Yeah, we're 24/7. All of the CFCs actually work 24/7, and that's because of the different support or commitments that we make to regional and global customers. So I've got a team. We've got 3 shifts that are running through 24/7. In tier 1, we've got on-call support for tier 2 and beyond to provide that. And at any given moment, there's an analyst on shift at each of those different things. That's where there's a lot of global collaboration opportunities as well. Yeah.
Hi, my name is R. Kelly, and I'm joining Cybersecurity. For experience in IT, but doesn't necessarily have like a certification, like let's say in cybersecurity, maybe security plus or network. How do you guys deal with those kind of?
Yeah. So Josiah actually kind of mentioned a little bit about that. He had some of that IT non-security experience that kind of leveled up the foundation of knowledge that he had from his bachelor's in cybersecurity. And then he kind of facilitated that conversation to get his toe in the door by networking at a security conference. It was just be where people are at that are into the things that you're at, that are doing the things that you want to be doing. You'll make those relationships. You'll make those points of contact. And when you see an opportunity like a job opening, you know who you're reaching out to. And that there is some level of a relationship that is pre-existing that initial contact that you've made. It works out better in that sense than a cold open, for sure.
All right. So what if, for instance, if I don't have those certifications, do I still have like a chance of getting hired, or?
Not for me as the hiring manager. It's more about demonstrating the successes that you've had in those other roles, speaking to the impact that you've brought to those organizations. Certainly, if that, there's an opportunity for you to demonstrate how you've been engaged in security efforts or how you've pursued those in ways other than achieving a certification. If you have the opportunities in those positions to partner with a security team to help influence those outcomes, that's a wonderful opportunity to kind of level up your resume there and to bring your exposure to those concepts into your experience for that conversation.
Oh, okay. So how do you guys analyze like a resume? Someone who doesn't have like a certifications, but do have more experience. Do you guys? I don't know how to say this in the correct way, but how do you guys?
No, you're doing fine. I think it's situational. I'm sorry. There's not a strict formula that I adhere to. Corinne probably, has a little bit more experience doing that because she gives me the cream at the top.
And again, I think it just depends on, what the team needs. Sometimes we have the bandwidth to bring somebody on and we have the time and the ability to develop them and get them ramped up through our onboarding program. And, there's enough bandwidth throughout the team that they would have mentors that they can go to that will help them learn. And then sometimes, we have certain positions that are open because, there's something on fire and we need a specific skill set, for a particular client or situation. So it really just depends. I think timing is everything. I know we talked a lot too about networking, with companies and reaching out on LinkedIn, going to Cactus Con and, obviously getting it in front of us today. But, also another way is just looking around the room. I mean, if you are a freshman or a sophomore and you're in clubs with seniors or people have recently graduated, where are they working? What are they doing? And how can you keep in contact with them so that when it comes time, I mean, most of the jobs that I've had in my career were through people that I know. And, it's great to go work with your friends. And if they're working at a company and they really love it there, then they've already vetted the culture and it's probably a great place to work. So don't forget about each other too and leaning on each other and even learning, if that person is working in a SOC and they have different requirements at the time that we do, what does that look like? And how can you constantly just expose yourself to opportunities to where you can grow and get new skills?
To that end, there is someone who is now in our CFC, our Cyber Fusion Center or SOC, who started at Help Desk and moved his way through. So sometimes your career journey might start in a place where you don't necessarily want to stay forever. And that's totally okay. Sometimes you'll have some great opportunities to network and meet with other people in your own company to get to the place where you really want to be. Does that help?
I would also quickly add back to the networking. It's not like you're going to network and immediately get the job. You're planting those seeds and you got to wait for those seeds to grow and you got to, keep watering them every once in a while. I didn't network and get this job immediately. Like I said, it took, maybe 8-9 months of waiting. Then I saw that job and that's when I, applied. So it's not just like an immediate magic wand kind of thing.
Well, Josiah, you decided to stay in Phoenix after graduating here. Was that a hard decision? And then how did you find a place to live? I think that's an interesting story as people transition from college into their career.
Yeah, I was looking, I think maybe January, February, right before I graduated. I was deciding, do I want to move back to California where I'm from, or stay out here? Ultimately, it came down to a job. I told myself if I could find a job in technology, I'll stay out here. If not, then I'll go back to California and figure something else out. It kind of worked out where I got a job at the NOC before the here. And then as far as housing, I just, again, kind of got lucky where two of my old friends from high school happened to be moving to the area at the same time. And they both had good jobs. So we got a house over in Mesa. So it's expensive to live by yourself. Look for roommates.
Test. So in terms of cyber news and cybersecurity news, like the recent MGM hack and the rise of ransomware and ransomware as a service, how does Kudelski leverage cybersecurity news?
So that's an interesting one. We also, because we focus on watching, waiting, triaging the alerts when we see it based on the telemetry and the detections that we've written, the physical controls aren't always something, or the endpoint controls where that might be like run, where ransomware is going to be like taking effect, isn't always something that we control. Sometimes it is, depending on the customer. Sometimes it's kind of an after the fact scenario. So I can give an example. There was a situation where one of our analysts saw an early indicator of an attack and started triaging that using an EDR, an endpoint detection solution like CrowdStrike, was able to contain that affected host and prevent a broader spread of ransomware. That was, I wouldn't say luck, but it was very fast thinking, fast acting. We had all of the stars align, with the telemetry that was available, the enrichment that they were able to perform, and to make a very rapid decision with a customer that enabled us to make that kind of decision. So a lot of things aligned there for us to say we stopped a ransomware attack at the initial point of entry. For things, broader attacks like MGM, we look for the intelligence that will come from those responses. It's not really available yet. We think we know the threat actor, but we don't know necessarily, are they using the same tooling to accomplish what they did there as they did a year ago when we have other IOC indicators of a compromise, artifacts or other indicators of attack. So we kind of have to take a wait and see approach before we start assessing what we need to do to our own processes and practices. But it's certainly something that we're constantly on the lookout for and kind of improving how we go about daily business to ensure that if the next time it happens, we're prepared to respond.
Additionally, we have a suite of advisory services. So our managed detection and response team is one of the services that our clients use. We also have pen testing, strategy, risk, and compliance, all very DevOps, different levels of consulting that we offer as a service to clients.
We also do threat hunting based off of certain news that comes out. So there might be a list of IOCs one of our analysts finds, and they could build a campaign off that. And we'll go through our customers' environments and hunt for that threat. So that's another way we use the current cyber news.
Thank you.
So once you're already hired, and like working in the office, I know a lot of it's kind of like teamwork, but what makes one analyst kind of stand out from another analyst?
Being new to the company, obviously the first month, even now, 3 or 4 months into it, it's all about learning from people. So I like to look for smart people, other analysts that I can learn from, and being able to pick their brains. So I know people that are really good at one technology where if I have a question, I could go to them about that. I have others who are just good for general knowledge of the day-to-day operations. I kind of find the people that are good at certain things, and I just kind of keep them in the back of my head. And whenever I need to kind of reference that, I can.
Hi there. My name's Rick Graham. I just have a quick question for you, Josiah, and one question for you, Bradley. Josiah, what shifts do you currently work at Kudelski?
Yeah, so I work the morning shift, 6 a.m. to 4:30 p.m.
Okay, thank you. And then Bradley, I was curious, as a new, I'm sorry, um, um, as a new hire at Kudelski, what's the likelihood that someone would end up on third shift?
So that's the needs of the team. At this particular time, we have our third shift fully staffed. If that was to change for some reason, or we reached a point in our rotation where there was, a need, that's good. We're going to try and manage through that. It's not always the most favorite shift, but in fact, we have two that love it. They're always remote. They never have to come into the office because they'd be by themselves anyways. And so it just aligns with their lifestyle and their personal choices. And so we're very happy, that it's easy on the rest of the team. When I was a SOC analyst, we rotated shifts every 30 days. So there's a balance to achieve there. 30 days is too rapid of a transition to go from first shift, second shift, third shift. But somewhere in between, like quarterly, 6 months, you can start to get to the point where hopefully everyone feels like they have an equal amount of suck. You're very welcome.
How do you feel about messaging people online? Yeah, so the question was, what are your tips and tricks for networking if you don't feel comfortable talking with people? Is that accurate?
It's pretty much on the point.
Okay. So I'll take a stab at this, and then anyone else feel free. Discord is a great place to meet people and to have conversations about their job. If you want to use it for a different use, then I don't know, maybe your Pokemon Go group chat, like whatever, or football. So that's a great place. I'm really about pushing people to be uncomfortable. So give yourself a couple seconds of bravery and have that conversation, because it will feel really awkward, but that's okay. It's okay to feel uncomfortable. That's how you grow. But practice, stand in front of a mirror. I know it sounds really cheesy, but it works. To get yourself feeling comfortable with what you're going to say. Have lines in your head that you've got ready to go. Like, I used to be in an etiquette group in college where we practice small talk. But it works, and it's really helpful to have a couple questions to ask people. But if you're just totally against that, then I would go the online route, send people messages on LinkedIn, find a company, see who works with them, see what experience they have, what they're interested in, send them a message. Hey, I saw this. People love to hear from college students. I'm in college and I really want to learn. Can we talk? Yeah, of course. So you'll be surprised at some of the responses that you get. On the flip side, people are also busy. So if they don't respond, don't take it personally. Send them another message, because they're honestly just busy and they're not, most of the time, trying to ignore you.
I don't know if you guys have noticed, but I'm way more real with college kids than I am with people in the professional industries that I've encountered. Because this is the moment where you need real talk and you want an unbiased or I don't know. Yeah, just honest feedback on how to approach it. So when I get people that are fresh out of college applying for jobs and messaging me on LinkedIn, I am far more likely to provide some sort of meaningful feedback to them. Usually it's in the negative, which is unfortunate, but it is, here's where you can improve. Here's where you can improve to be considered for this in the future. Here are some of the things, that I see in your resume that, immediately flagged for me why this is probably not a good fit, and you can consider that. I don't do that for nearly everybody that messages me, but certainly people that come to me and say, I've just graduated, I'm looking for my first job. I've just finished my master's degree, I'm looking for my first job. And if any of you are graduate students, don't apply for senior level jobs thinking that your master's is going to get you in, because it's not. But certainly do what it says and reach out and ask for that kind of mentorship or that feedback or support. I hope that helps.
With that, I think we're going to wrap up. So if you have any last minute, like words of advice or whatever, feel free to share it. You'll stick around for a little while after for any quick networking or something, like, right?
Yeah, 100%.
Okay. And just as an FYI, I messaged Brady on LinkedIn out of the blue, like probably about 4 weeks, 5 weeks, whatever it was, not too long ago. So a lot of this came because of just a random LinkedIn message. So it happens. It's pretty crazy. So last minute words of advice.
I do. Be bold, be brave, and practice.
Yeah, and just as for those of you that I managed to speak to in class, reach out to me on LinkedIn. Don't just follow me, try and do a connect. You have to kind of actually go to my profile and hit connect rather than hit follow. I've got the influencer thing turned off. So just but hit me up on LinkedIn and I will give you, as best of advice. Like, I mean, if 100 of you message me, just give me some time to respond. But thanks for the chance to meet you, and I hope it was helpful.
Okay. So thank you. This was recorded. It'll be available tomorrow for those that want to catch it up at that point. With that, we'll wrap up. Thank you to our panel.